the headlines of this hour on VTV News. The 10th National Congress of Vietnam Fatherland Front opens. Vietnam-US trade exceeds $100 billion. In our world news, North Korea revises constitution, abandons unification goal.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. local time and you're tuning in to VTV News. I'm Huyen Chen with the top stories. The 10th National Congress of the Vietnam Fatherland Front opened in Hanoi on Thursday morning. The event brought together representatives of people from all walks of life, demonstrating the strength of the great national solidarity bloc. Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm attended and delivered a speech at the Congress, which also saw the attendance of other party and state leaders.
In his speech at the Congress, the top leader emphasized that the nation's great achievements stem from the party's wise leadership and the unity of the entire party, people, and military. He highlighted the crucial role of the National Solidarity Bloc and the contributions of the Vietnam Fatherland Front and its member organizations. The leader also declared that the country stands at the threshold of a historic opportunity to enter a new era, one in which Vietnam, under the party's guidance, will achieve prosperity, strength, democracy, justice, and civilization. By mid-century, Vietnam aspires to become a developed, high-income nation following a socialist-oriented path.
It is essential to have a unified understanding of the critical position and special importance of the National Solidarity Bloc. It is an urgent priority to strengthen and promote the National Solidarity Bloc under the party's leadership. This is one of many key solutions for the nation to advance towards a new era. History has shown that the National Solidarity Bloc is a source of great strength and the foundation of all revolutionary successes in Vietnam. The more difficult and challenging the circumstances, the more we need to unite extensively, firmly, and widely. It is only through unity that we achieve victory. The National Solidarity Bloc can only become an unbeatable force when it is organized and guided by the correct policies. Its strength will be maximized when mobilized under the Vietnam Fatherland Front and led by the party.
The top leader also urged the Vietnam Fatherland Front to safeguard the legitimate and legal interests of the people. He stressed that the party has no other interests apart from the welfare of the people. The people are at the core of all the party's policies and decisions. The efforts of the party, the state, and the entire political system only hold significance when the people live in prosperity and happiness.
National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn led a high-ranking delegation of the Vietnamese National Assembly on an official visit to Laos on Thursday afternoon to attend the 45th ASEAN Inter-Parliamentary Assembly, or APA. The visit, made at the invitation of Lao National Assembly Chairman Say Song Phong Phong Vi Han, reaffirms Vietnam's consistent policy of prioritizing and valuing the great friendship, special solidarity, and comprehensive cooperation with Laos. It underscores Vietnam's strong support for Laos' efforts in reform, national defense, and development, while showcasing the deep trust and close relationship between the two countries' senior leaders. The visit also reflects Vietnam's active participation in APA, highlighting the Vietnamese National Assembly's role in strengthening ASEAN's central role, unity, and cohesion, as well as APA's commitment to regional peace, stability, and development. Vietnam ranks second globally in receiving funding from the Japanese government through the Japan International Cooperation Agencies, or JICA, and under the Private Sector Investment Finance Program. And from the latter half of last year till the first half of this year, 2 additional grant aid projects from Japan were completed. The signed capital agreements with Vietnam have reached their highest level in 6 years. From April last year to March this year, JICA, on behalf of the Japanese government, signed loan agreements with Vietnam, totaling over $678 million. Grant aid reached $7.5 million, contributing to economic infrastructure development and human resource training. Vietnam is the leading country among Japan's collaboration partners, and Japan remains a major partner of Vietnam in trade, economy, and investment, and is the largest ODA provider to Vietnam. Vietnam is currently the fastest growing economy in ASEAN thanks to its open stance on attracting foreign direct investment, or FDI. This is HSBC's assessment released on Wednesday. And last week, HSBC also revised its forecast for Vietnam's growth, raising it from 6.5% to 7%, making it the most optimistic among international organizations and also the highest in the Southeast Asia region. In the first 9 months of this year, FDI into Vietnam reached nearly $25 billion, up 11.6% compared to the same period last year. However, HSBC experts have advised that Vietnam should be selective in attracting investment, focusing on priority sectors and considering environmental impacts. This approach would also help reduce the strain on infrastructure systems. The organization further projects that from 2024 to 2029, Vietnam's economy could expand by an additional $40 billion annually. The North-South High-Speed Railway project is set for submission to the National Assembly this month, or as we know it, October. This vital project will significantly boost the country's socio-economic development. And if approved, Hanoi needs to finalize the investment and network connections planning.
The 250-hectare Ngọc Hoi station complex planned by Hanoi will include a high-speed railway station, the Thống Nhất railway station, and urban railway tracks. It aims to serve as a key hub for transferring passengers from inter-provincial and regional routes to the inner-city transport system.
The land available here has sufficient capacity for urban development, constructing a railway system, and creating growth areas in the southern part of Hanoi.
The Hanoi Department of Transport stated that if the high-speed railway project is approved, investing in urban railways to connect with it will be essential for efficiently managing the large volume of passengers traveling to Hanoi.
We will create a long-term roadmap for urban railway development and structure investments into appropriate phases to maximize efficiency for the high-speed railway and the city's other infrastructure.
The Hanoi Authority for Urban Planning and Architecture announced that the capital's master plan has been submitted to the Prime Minister. Upon approval, the city will review and adjust the zoning and detail plans for the Ngọc Hoi station complex to meet the timeline for the high-speed railway project.
Bilateral trade between Vietnam and the United States surpassed the $100 billion mark in the first 9 months of this year. The United States remains Vietnam's largest export market, according to a report from the Ministry of Industry and Trade. During this period, exports to the U.S. were estimated at $89.4 billion, nearly at 30% of Vietnam's total export revenue, marking an increase of more than 27% compared to the same period last year. Additionally, the United States is one of the largest importers of Vietnamese goods, with imports reaching almost $11 billion in the same period. Vietnamese products are gaining popularity in this market due to continuous improvements in quality, trend awareness, and competitive pricing. Now, according to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Vietnam had acquired 13,000 agricultural processing facilities by the end of 2023. However, nearly all of these are small and medium-sized facilities with limited deep processing capabilities. Currently, these processing facilities face numerous challenges, including exchange rate fluctuations, rising shipping costs, and a lack of investment capital.
The exchange rate issue is a challenge for exporters. We hope the government will consider making some adjustments to foster more favorable conditions.
Lowering shipping and transportation costs would enhance the value of Vietnamese shrimp products.
We propose that the government provide funding for individuals and businesses to effectively implement high-tech production methods.
Raw material areas are located far from processing plants. During transportation, raw materials often get damaged. We hope local authorities can develop plans to reduce the distance between planting areas and factories to maintain their quality.
Now, before we move on to other important updates, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rates of today, October 17th. Coming up next on VTV News. Industrial production units speed up greenhouse gas emission inventory. And Hmong ethnic group transforms traditional crafts into unique tourism products. Now moving on to other news, the areas of Quảng Trị, Quảng Nam, the southern Central Highlands and the southern region have experienced thunderstorms from Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Some areas in Da Nang, Quảng Nam and Trà Vinh saw particularly heavy rainfall exceeding 90 millimeters. From Thursday afternoon to night, the area from Quảng Trị to Phú Yên will continue to experience moderate to heavy rain. Rainfall ranges from 30 to 60 millimeters, with some areas exceeding 100 millimeters. The southern Central Highlands and the southern region will also experience thunderstorms, with some areas receiving over 80 millimeters of rain. Warnings for thunderstorms, lightning, and strong winds have been issued, which could lead to flooding in low-lying areas, urban areas, landslides in hilly regions, and small stream beds. To meet its commitment of achieving net zero emissions by 2050 and complying with the Environmental Protection Law, the government has recently updated a list of over 2,000 greenhouse gas emitting facilities, mostly industrial sites releasing CO2. These facilities must submit greenhouse gas inventory reports to relevant authorities by the end of March 2025. They are also expected to gradually reduce emissions and participate in the pilot phase of the carbon credit market.
This facility is one of the 30 listed in Phú Thọ's greenhouse gas inventory. It is actively collaborating with a consulting unit to review carbon dioxide emission system and finalize its greenhouse gas inventory report. Additionally, the facility is implementing various solutions to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, including using biomass pellets as an alternative to coal.
Switching from fossil fuels to biomass not only provides economic benefits but also protects the environment. This move helps reduce CO2 emissions by 50% to 70%.
Many industrial facilities are actively collaborating with authorities to review and assess energy consumptions and carbon dioxide emissions. Last year, this facility calculated emissions equivalent to over 600,000 tons of carbon dioxide. It implemented energy-saving measures, resulting in a 20% reduction in fossil fuel usage.
We are actively providing data to complete the greenhouse gas inventory report this year.
To ensure that 100% of industrial production facilities complete their reports by March next year, ministries and sectors are implementing various support measures, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises.
Small and medium-sized enterprises need more support for their greenhouse gas inventory efforts. Vietnam needs the participation of technology companies and financial organizations to assist in the greenhouse gas inventory process.
Through the greenhouse gas inventory process, production units can identify their carbon dioxide emissions, enabling them to implement energy-saving solutions that help protect the environment.
On Thursday morning, Vietjet Airlines made history by operating 2 flights using a sustainable aviation fuel, one from Vietnam to Melbourne, Australia, and another to Seoul, South Korea. This milestone establishes Vietjet as a pioneer in sustainable aviation fuel use, which helps reduce carbon emissions by up to 80%. This type of fuel is derived from renewable, sustainably sourced materials, including used cooking oil, agricultural byproducts, wood biomass, and municipal waste. It also complies with stringent international aviation standards. October 17th is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, as well as the Day for the Poor in Vietnam. Recently, bolstered by support from the party and the state, ethnic communities have been actively working and striving to overcome poverty. This marks an important shift that helps regions with large ethnic populations achieve sustainable poverty alleviation. The next story was reported from Kiên Giang, home to the 3rd largest ethnic population in the Mekong Delta.
Alongside his work in the militia, Theo also raises livestock to supplement his income. He's determined to escape poverty through his own efforts rather than relying on support from authorities.
I can rise out of poverty myself, leaving the support for people in greater need, such as households that consist of elderly and vulnerable individuals.
In this rural area, buffalo farming provides additional income for the Khmer people. With just 2 buffalo, each household can net over 50 million Vietnam dong after expenses.
We collaborate with organizations to understand the challenges poor people face and provide guidance and support to help them overcome these difficulties.
Recently, national target programs have breathed new life into rural areas. All 40 communes in Kiên Giang, which has a major Khmer population, have achieved new rural status. The number of poor households in these ethnic areas decreases by 1.5 to 2% yearly.
In 2023, the poverty rate in the province decreased by 1.28%. It has surpassed the Congress target by 3 years.
Eagerly engaging in production, the Khmer people are constantly striving to overcome poverty. They have faith in the leadership of the party and the state and are confident in their ability to rise and prosper in their own homeland.
The Hmong people in Bắc Hà district of Lao Cai province practice a traditional craft of making their own clothes. They create patterns by applying beeswax to indigo fabric, which they use for both garments and tourism products. By employing these time-honored methods, they not only keep their craft alive, but also teach younger generations and those unfamiliar with it how to preserve traditions for the future.
Currently, only a few people know how to apply beeswax. When visiting the Hmong villages in Bắc Hà, you will mostly see older women practicing this craft, and even then, their numbers are dwindling. The process of applying beeswax requires knowledge of traditional patterns and skills.
I am here to pass on the sewing and beeswax techniques from the old days. These skills were handed down by our ancestors. This craft is very difficult to master. The traditional patterns have been passed down through generations, and I hope to pass them on to younger people as a way to preserve the beauty of the Hmong people.
Patterns on Hmong clothing have been well received by visitors. As a result, women's groups and local cooperatives have been established to preserve and develop this craft.
There are still many new designs that we're still working on. We want to create products that not only showcase the beauty of traditional styles, but also have a modern touch to attract more customers.
We have encouraged local people to return to traditional crafts, such as embroidery, instead of purchasing ready-made products. We consider this a craft that is difficult to maintain, but once preserved, it will be a key product in maintaining traditional cultural identity.
The Hmong people have preserved about 50 traditional patterns in their clothing, which serve as the foundation for their craft. Hmong women have creatively incorporated these patterns into various items such as clothing, souvenirs, scarves, and curtains. This approach not only helps preserve their ethnic identity, but also generates income for local families.
To unlock the potential of its historic sites, Tuyen Province has created distinctive tourism products, offering visitors a wide range of immersive experiences rich in local identity. Visitors are drawn to the Tân Chào tourist area in Sơn Dương district, where they can return to the cradle of the revolution, hear stories of Vietnam's unforgettable revolutionary history, and appreciate the immense sacrifices made by previous generations.
Nha Nua Shack, where President Ho Chi Minh lived and worked from late May 1945 till August the 22nd, 1945, served as the headquarters of the August Revolution. Tân Chào Communal House was the site of the Tân Chào People's Congress on August the 16th and 17th, 1945, an event that laid the groundwork for the success of the August Revolution. The Tân Chào banyan tree marks the place where on the afternoon of August the 16th, 1945, General Võ Nguyên Giáp signed the order for a general insurrection.
These experiences will become the stories I tell my children. I will tell them what had been sacrificed in exchange for the peaceful life we have today.
The combination of historical tourism and cultural experiences unique to Tuyen Quang further enriches visitors' journeys. Over 2 years ago, the introduction of traditional bamboo rafting and tent singing on Nha Nua Lake quickly captured the hearts of tourists. The performers are members of the tent singing and Tình Lüt Club, who deeply love the Tay ethnic culture.
My experience coming here will become unforgettable memories, compelling me to return and introduce my friends and family to this place.
I got to try making bamboo rice and kneading dough, to name a few. This interaction with local culture is particularly interesting to us young people.
Local tourism developers are tapping into their homeland's potential by preserving historic sites, showcasing the natural landscape, and promoting cultural heritage.
We will develop unique tourism products based on our ethnic and cultural legacy. Our 117 nationally ranked sites will also help us tap into our potential as a historical tourism hotspot.
Tuyen Quang is actively implementing the government's master plan for developing the Tân Chào tourism industry with a vision towards 2030. This aims to transform the area into a prominent heritage tourism destination, leveraging its revolutionary historical sites as resources for tourism growth.
Coming up next in our world news. North Korea revises constitution, abandons unification goal. And American voters cast ballots ahead of presidential election. Now moving on to our world news, North Korea's state news agency KCNA on Thursday reported that the country has designated South Korea a hostile state, confirming that its National Assembly had amended the country's constitution in line with their leader Kim Jong-un's vow to drop unification as a national goal. KCNA also reported that North Korea's military move to blast sections of road and rail links with South Korea earlier on Tuesday is a legitimate action against a hostile state as defined by the Constitution. South Korea's unification ministry, the constitution change, and the characterization of hostile state, and would not waver in its efforts toward peaceful reunification. It also said the cross-border roads and the rail links were built with South Korean materials and equipment worth $133 million provided in the form of loans, and North Korea is obligated to pay back the aid. At least 5.5 million Americans had cast ballots at early voting sites as of Thursday. Georgia voters took to the polls in record numbers, casting more than 300,000 ballots on the first day of early voting. This number represents a 123% increase compared to the state's previous record. Georgia is one of the 7 competitive battleground states expected to play a decisive role in deciding the November election. Early voting opens in several American states this week, including another battleground state, North Carolina, and Iowa, Kansas, Washington, Massachusetts, and Nevada. The EU has adopted new rules that aim to improve working conditions for the more than 28 million people working in digital labor platforms across the bloc. It will help correctly determine the employment status of persons working for platforms, such as Uber drivers, enabling them to benefit from any labor rights they are entitled to. EU member states will have 2 years to incorporate the provisions of the Platform Work Directive into their national legislation. Japanese wanting to keep alive their traditional no dance, which features deliberate movements by actors in elaborate costumes, can now look to AI for guidance. Reuters' Zachary Goldman has more in the following.
Practicing movements from Japan's classical no theater with guidance on hand from AI. This Fujitsu technology is capturing their movements by camera, analyzing it, and comparing it to a model performance. It even gives prompt feedback. Takashi Ishikawa, a high school teacher, visited the Fujitsu booth at a trade show near Tokyo.
Because my actual movements were shown as a frame, it was more easy for me to grasp factors visually, such as my elbow and axis positioning, than being told in words. In addition, it was analyzed in a short time, so it made me want to practice more.
No theater dates back to the 14th century. It involves stylized movements made by actors in masks and elaborate costumes. Hidenori Fujiwara, head of the Human Digital Twin Division at Fujitsu, said Japan's shrinking population has put traditional culture at risk, but the technology could help.
Through the camera footage, our artificial intelligence analyzes body frame so that we can capture the movements from different angles of joints. We then create a human CG model from this analysis, which learners can take as their example. That is our solution.
Now let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.